we'll just have a look at a couple of slides again, just to recap and just to mention a couple of things that come up all of the time. So, one question that comes up, obviously, because you're on a subscription, what happens if you stop your subscription? So this is what will happen. The catalog and the browsing options will still be available. So you'll be able to look through all the pictures, but you won't be able to process them. So the develop and other modules will stop working. Okay. You will still have full access to your images. Nothing will change on your images. The XMP files will still be intact, but you'll not be able to make any changes to those files or use most of the output features. Okay. Now, I showed this slide the other day, but let's just again recap, and I'll show you a couple of extra slides. So we have to remember that Lightroom only uses one catalog. So only one catalog can be in use at any one time. So it's not a good program to use when you're working in an office environment. Multiple people cannot work on Lightroom Classic at the same time. Um, but what you can do, if you want to, you can use multiple catalogs. So you can open and save individual catalogs if you wish. But generally, my recommendation is to put everything in one catalog because a catalog can handle hundreds of thousands of files. In my library, I think I have something like 700 to 800,000 images, and there's absolutely fine. There's no degradation in performance or anything like that. The other reason why you would only want to use one catalog at any one time is, again, because of the sharing that I showed you the other day. Only one catalog can be shared. So if you open another catalog and you reshare, right, you will have to stop that previous share, again, with the loss of some images that are shared with the Adobe Creative Cloud. So ideally, all things considered, you should only use one catalog. Now, I showed you this again. I'll just mention it, I think, because it's a nice feature. If you're working away from home or away from the office, and you are allowed to use two licenses of Adobe Lightroom Classic at any time. You can have two simultaneous licenses active. So you could go away with your laptop, create a new catalog. You can export that catalog, and then you can bring it into Lightroom, and it will import the catalog, but you have to import the pictures separately. Okay. So it's a slightly complex way of doing it, I think, and it's more prone to error. So my recommendation is to actually do this. So on the right-hand side, we have your laptop, your away environment, if you like. On the left, we have your desktop, your home office environment. Your master Lightroom catalog will reside on this machine on the left. Okay. So in this scenario, you do not share your catalog. You leave a different catalog on your laptop and a different catalog on your master device. But what all you do is if you choose that option which I showed you, sidecar XMP files, what happens is when you import your images into your catalog, right, that XMP file will tell Lightroom what you've done to the file. Okay. So the only downside of this option, and I've noted that on the bottom, is that it will not pick up things like collections. But that's not really a worry because you're working away from the office. The most important thing is that you are able to take in your edits. So as long as you use that XMP option, you can import those pictures and the program will read the sidecar files and it will import what you've done to the pictures automatically. I think this is a good, simple way of working. Now, if you are working a lot out of different machines, so you're traveling and you want to have everything with you, including your catalog and your images, then my recommendation would be to save your catalog on the external drive. So you have your images on the external drive, and you can have your catalog on the external drive as well. The catalog is a file, it can be anywhere, right? So if you're working away from home, what you do is you just quit Lightroom just to make sure that everything is nicely saved. You take away that drive, you plug it in onto your laptop when you're away on holiday, and everything that was in Lightroom on your desktop will appear on your laptop. It's a pretty clever way of doing it, I think. Just my recommendation always is make sure you have a backup of that drive, okay? Because if you don't have a backup and you lose that drive, you lose your images and your catalog, and that will be disastrous, okay? Now, I think this is very doable nowadays because we have solid state drives which are tiny, basically smaller than a box of matches. And nowadays you can get them in 4 terabyte capacities, even 8 terabyte capacities. And I'll tell you something that I do, and I've been doing this for about a year and a half now. I actually have a backup solid state drive and I take it with me wherever I go. I actually carry my photos. So I'm able to carry all my photos wherever I go. And I have it as a safety net in case something happens to my computer, in case whatever, I always have a copy of the latest stuff on a disk that I carry with me, right? And it weighs almost nothing. So I think that we're in a good position right now because solid state drives are very reliable and they're very, very small. Now, just remember the two things that I mentioned to you. Um, Try and keep to a naming convention for your folders because it helps when you import files. Something like this with the date and the name. So these become automatic keywords, if you like, that you can search for. If you are starting from scratch, you haven't used Lightroom at all, then I highly recommend that you think about your file structure, your hierarchy. Very, very important. That will help you when you're bringing things into Lightroom, and it will help you when you're actually using Lightroom. For those of you who already have a large library, my suggestion is either, if you like, if you have the time, you can rework that library within Lightroom, but always within Lightroom. Or if you haven't got the time, leave your structure as it was originally and maybe adopt a new structure for the new year. So for 2025, start thinking of a better structure if you're finding that you're not working as efficiently as you could be. Okay. Now, just 3 more slides. We haven't spoken about color spaces, but this will become essential when we go into opening other programs like Photoshop within Lightroom or exporting. So the important thing about color spaces is that basically color spaces are a subset of what we can see. Okay, the computer has numeric data which basically describes a color space. And we have smaller color spaces like sRGB, which is what's predominantly used on the web. And we have very large color spaces like Profoto. So if you see the large triangle here, Profoto RGB is the largest. And then we have Adobe RGB, we have DCI-P3, which is very, very slightly smaller. Now, the important thing to note is that by default, and you cannot change it, Adobe Lightroom Classic always works in Profoto RGB. It's the largest gamut of colors, and what's interesting about this is that there is no monitor existing on Earth today which can show you all of the colors. So you are not able to see all of the colors that are available within Profoto. But the idea is that having the ability to work on all the colors means that you get better processing. And then when you export to a lower sized color gamut, color space, then you have a better conversion because you have more colors to start with and a smaller range of colors to end with. But just remember that your monitors would probably be sRGB, or if you're using a Mac, a recent Mac, it will be DCI P3. If you have a high-end quality monitor from ISO or NEC, it would probably be Adobe RGB. So you'll be able to see smoother gradations, more colors, okay? But remember that Lightroom always works in ProPhoto RGB color space, okay? Now, these are a couple of tips about cameras because we haven't really talked about Nikon or what do we do with our cameras. But my recommendation is on your camera, make sure that you set your artist and copyright information. There is a field in the main Nikon menu, which is the one with the little spanner, right? Set your artist and copyright information. Why? Because that metadata gets embedded into the pictures, and then you don't have to do any copyright stuff in Lightroom because you already done it. It's also a good thing to do because um, if somebody picks up your camera or your equipment gets stolen, that data will still be in your camera. So potentially somebody could have found it and informed you, or if you include an email or a telephone number in that information. So number one, try and set this on camera. Now, another thing is the numbering. I generally say to people, don't rename your pictures on import. Why? Because it's very difficult to rename your pictures. If you had gone on holiday to Jamaica, what are you going to call, we're going to call your files Holiday Jamaica 0001, 0, it's very difficult to do. If you've already named the folders that the pictures reside in, that's enough. Okay. You can also add, as we've seen, you can add a keyword holidays to Jamaica on import. So you've dealt with it that way. My recommendation is don't rename the files. Just keep them as they come out of the camera, which will be DSC 0001. And if you have gone around the clock, so if you've gone beyond 9,999, you can change the letter prefix to something else. By default, Nikon is DSC, but it could be anything you like. So just name it something different. But again, you don't have to worry about this too much. Why? Because Lightroom still compares the time when those pictures were taken, and it would be very highly unlikely if you had two pictures which are DSC 0001, which were taken at exactly the same second at exactly the same time. Um, as most of you, I imagine, have gone through a number of cameras in your lifetime, and you all have a lot of DSC 001 and 002 files. Like I said, you don't have to worry because Lightroom still sees them as being different. Okay. Now, the camera prefers, if you like, to be in 14-bit. By default, most Nikon cameras are set to 12-bit. If you put it in 14 bits, you get a little bit of greater dynamic range. And we're going to go through noise and things like that, but obviously try and keep to the lowest ISO because it keeps the noise levels down. And the important thing is that you do not overexpose. That is the golden rule with digital photography is try not to expose, or maybe the correct thing to say is try not to expose too much. If you overexpose a little bit, you are able to recover that information, that picture data. But if you overexpose too much by 2 or 3 or 4 stops, you've basically overcooked it. The photo sites have gotten oversaturated, and you basically have whiteness. You have a blank section. So we are very good in terms of software at recovering shadow detail, the darker parts of the picture, but we're not so good at recovering highlights if you have blown them. So one way to do this on your Nikon camera is you have what's called the highlight view, which we sometimes call the blinkies. This is when it blinks whatever is overexposed. And if you have a small part of the picture blinking, that's good. If you have a huge part of the picture blinking, like the sky, that is very bad. And you do not want to do it. So try and bring the exposure down so that you don't overexpose. Now, in terms of white balance, my advice is, again, this is a complicated subject. My advice is try and set the white balance correctly on location. Why? Because if you haven't done it and then you come into Lightroom, you won't remember what the exact conditions were like, and it's very difficult to guess what the correct white balance was. Now, you might do this with a white card. There's a way to do it with live view on your camera and with mirrorless cameras because you have a live view. You can set the white balance automatically as a starting point, and then you can set it manually and just keep it for the duration of the session, and then you can make adjustments. But try and set your white balance on location, and Lightroom will pick that up. In fact, yesterday I picked up an app for the iPhone, which actually gives you a very, very accurate white balance. So that's another possibility. You could put something on your phone that basically gives you a very, very accurate white balance for a particular location. Now, final slide. Um, I highly recommend if you're doing photographic imaging that you have some sort of calibrator, some sort of color calibrator. Now, I have been working with data color over the years, so I have the Spider, and I highly recommend a Spider or anything from Calibrite. It used to be called X-Rite, now they're called Calibrite. But basically, it's a good idea, particularly if you have an older screen or an older computer, to calibrate your screen. And the reason is that your eyes adjust to the color conditions and they adjust to the screen and everything looks fine and good and normal. But your screen might actually be displaying the wrong brightness and the wrong colors slightly. It's not going to be off a huge amount, but that means that your image processing is not going to be as good. So I highly recommend a display calibrator. Now, this example here just shows you, you're looking at a picture on the screen and it looks slightly greenish, and you make adjustments to calibrate it, and it looks good on your screen, and then you print it and you get something completely different. Why? Because you're not seeing the exact data that what's actually there. So it's only when you do a calibration that you have an assurance that this whole path, this whole workflow will work correctly. So calibrate once a month, once every couple of weeks, something like that, will be fine. Okay, all good so far? Yep. Okay, so let's minimize this and we go into Lightroom. Now, okay, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to create a new catalog. Or actually, no, I'll leave the catalog where it is. So catalog is in the same location. So all I've done is I started by default and I've selected a new um, a new catalog. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to import my photos and video. But what I'm doing differently today is I'm going to use an external hard drive instead of my internal. Um, okay, so I've got my disk here, which is called Master Library, and I've got my images here. And they all show up. There's nothing in my library at the moment, and I'm using my embedded and sidecar. This don't import suspected duplicates won't make any difference because there's nothing in there already. So remember the include subfolders here, right? So that all the subfolders are picked up. Okay, and we'll do an import. Now, there's a question from David, and there's a question from Pat. David is asking, is Spider supposed to be used all the time? Okay, that's a good question. You don't have to use the Spider all the time, so you can have it disconnected and just connect it every couple of weeks when you recalibrate. But what the Spider has, it has on it an ambient light sensor. And one of the useful things that you can do if you're working in a room which the situation changes, so it becomes sometimes brighter, it becomes sometimes darker, what it will do is it will tell you that the ambient light is different than when you calibrate it. So effectively, what you can do with Spider, and I think you can do this with the other calibrators as well, it will offer you two or three different calibrations depending on your light condition, right? But if you are like me, working in a dark room, I'm in the loft of my house, which is normally quite dark. There's two very, very small windows. The light situation doesn't change very much. You don't have to use the ambient light sensor, and you can just use a single calibration. Okay. Pat, if it's okay, we can we do your question during the break, please? Yeah. Okay. So I've inputted some pictures, and the first thing I hope to show you is we had a look at this yesterday, but sorry, on Tuesday, but I think this is a good thing to know because you can find where rogue files have gone or make sure that everything is in a folder. Okay. So basically, on the left-hand side, we've got a number of folders, and Animals has three, two, three, whatever. And this indicates the number of pictures in each folder, right? But we have a total of 156 pictures, okay? Now, if you go to this little pop-up here with the plus, and you say undo the show photos in subfolders, right? We have two photos which are not in a folder. Okay, so this is a useful device to find pictures which should be in a folder, but they aren't. They're in the main images section. Okay. Now, another thing which I didn't show you is that you can go to photo, show in Finder. In Windows, I think it will show something else. But if we show in Finder, it will actually show us that we've got two pictures here that are rogue, that are not in any particular folder. Okay. So whatever you do, don't pick them up and put them in a folder from your desktop or from your Finder. What you want to do is you want to take those two pictures, grab them from the middle of the picture, and put them in the right place. And what Lightroom will say is this will cause these files to be moved. So this is going to physically move those pictures. Okay. So now, as you can see, it says 0. So there are no pictures in my folder called images at all because they're all in subfolders. So this again is showing me that I'm nice and neat and everything is in the right place. Just don't forget to go back to this little pop-up and say show photos in subfolders. Otherwise, you will be wondering where your files have gone. Okay, especially if you have subfolder, subfolder, subfolder structure like I have. So make sure you have that in. Okay, now let's just have a look at various import strategies. Now I have an SD card here, which I'm going to insert. So this is going to act as if I took some pictures with my camera and I'm importing them. And the relevant setting here is, I think it's under general, show import dialog when a memory card is detected. Okay, so that by default is on. Okay, so I'm going to put that card in my card reader, and I'm hoping that yeah, don't worry about that. That's a Samsung thing. But I am hoping that when the card goes in and it's opened by the Mac, we should have the import dialog. There we go. There we go. Okay, and we've got the import dialog, and it's starting to show some pictures. This happens to be quite an old card reader, so it's quite slow. But what we've got here is we've got the input, the source, okay, and important again to include the subfolders because I've got the master, if you like, DCIM folder selected, and the pictures are actually in another folder. So on the left, we have our source. In the middle, we have, by default, we have copy because we're going to leave the pictures on our card, basically to make sure that everything is nicely saved and copied onto our hard drive. So that's going to do a copy, leave them as they are. If for any reason we don't want to import them all, we can uncheck some of them. So for the purposes of this demo, and again, to keep things relatively quick, I'm just going to import the first row. Okay, so this is what I'm selecting right now. I'm just selecting the first, what is it, 7 pictures. Now on the right-hand side, we went through this the other day. We want probably the embedded and sidecar option because that is the quickest option. It's picking up the embedded JPEG. It's not doing anything to the raw file. And we are not renaming at all because, like I said to you before, I don't think renaming is a good idea. And because this is all from a Christmas Nikonona walk, I could add specific keywords. So I could put Nikonona, and I could put Christmas because it's a Christmas walk. So remember, comma for a second keyword, and I put Christmas walk. And that means that all the pictures, if you all the pictures that you've taken on the card are from the same event, you can put a keyword in there, saves you from having to do it afterwards. So the important thing is, where is this going to go, right? Now, I've got 2 hard drives here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click that away. Okay, and I'm going to pick my master library. And what I would like to do is I would like to put it in the images folder along with the other images, which I already have. Okay. So this begins to be very important here because depending on what options you choose, so for example, if I put by date, you'll see that it's actually splitting them up by date, by year, and by individual date. And you see, I happen to have 2 sets of dates here. So if you're bringing in images that have different dates, you could do it that way. Um, Personally, I don't like this particular way of doing things. But if you prefer it, then at least it's showing you items by date. You can go back into your interface and change the names of the folder, whatever. Okay. But just the interesting thing here is that you can change the date format. So as you can see now, it's changed to this. And what I like about this is that it's actually showing you how the folders will look, how the folder structure will look. So if you're not sure, just select the date and it will show you how it will look just down here. This is the structure that it will create for you. Now, you can also do by original folders. So by original folders, what it's actually doing is that it's copying the file structure as it was on the memory card. So we have DCIM, that was the original folder, and we have the subfolder, which is Nikon Z502, because it's the Nikon Z52. Okay. Again, I don't like that. And what I like to do is into one folder, okay? And if you say into subfolder, into one folder, and then I can give it a my own date when I shot it, which we just saw in when I chose the date. So it was 2024 December, and it was the 18th of December, and it was the Nikon owner Christmas walk. And now you can see why this option is a very nice one, because we've got into subfolder with that name, and it says organize into one folder. Why? Because generally the card reader will probably have pictures from one event. Okay. And this is now showing what the new folder will look like. If you're happy with all of that, then you just click import. And Lightroom will work in the background now to input those pictures. It will have the keyword that we added, and those pictures will now be in that particular folder. Okay. So here we have that folder, and those are the 7 pictures that are in that folder, imported, and they're in the right place. Now, we can right-click on this folder, and if for some reason we made a mistake, we can do a remove, but it's going to say to us, are you sure? It's not going to remove the pictures from the disk, but they will be removed from the Lightroom catalog. Or if for some reason I don't like my naming convention here, I can rename it. And let's say I don't like Christmas spelt that way. I will write Christmas properly. And I just save. And again, that's all nice and referenced. And yeah. Okay. So that's how you rename and move files around. Now, now what I'm going to do, let me just see. So minimize. Yeah. Okay. So one of the other things I didn't show you is if you know where your files are coming from and you've got your images properly decided, you can click here, you can minimize the import interface so it just has the source and the output. That's something that I didn't show you. We also covered import presets. So if you do something all of the time, it's always consistent. You can save a preset that remembers everything from your input settings, develop settings. All of those things can be added on import. Okay, so yeah, okay. So let's just have a look at what we've got on disk here. So in terms of a structure, I have this particular folder. This is, if you like, my master folder of stuff. And what we're going to do is we're going to see what happens if we manually move a folder inside this particular folder. So I have a picture here, sorry, a folder here called King's Cross Photo Walk, and I'm going to move it in images. Okay. And of course, it's not appearing here because Lightroom does not know that that folder exists. Okay. And I know some of you sometimes do this. You put things in folders and you don't input them. So you have your master structure, you put your folders in the right place, right? You sprinkle files around, and those pictures are not available in Lightroom at all. So we have a wonderful feature. So if we click again on the folder, we have this feature called Synchronize Folder. Okay. Now, I strongly recommend, if you do this, to show the import dialog before importing. This is so that you know what's coming in. Otherwise, you're not really sure whether you've got them or not. And if you show import dialog before importing, then you have the option to have that option, which is check for duplicates in case you've already put them in somewhere. So what we do, and we can also scan for metadata updates. We'll deal with this later, right? We click synchronize. We don't want this view. We want this view. And basically, what Lightroom is showing us now is that the pictures will be added because they're already in the right place. They don't need to be moved or whatever, right? It's automatically showing new photos because all these photos are new because I've got don't import suspected duplicates. So if there were any duplicates here, it would have automatically deselected them. Okay. So there's no uh, there's no output source because we have input and we know what that is, but there is no output because it's already in the right place. It's already in the right folder of images, right? So all I need to do now is just click import and Lightroom will gather all of those pictures and it will put them into the King's Cross photo walk here. So if basically, I personally, I don't think this is the best option. Why? Because you can put things in the right folders. You may forget where you've put them. You may forget when you've done it. But basically, if you do work that way and put your folders in the structure as you are working with your cameras, basically you can go into synchronize and Lightroom will check that everything is in the right place and it will put things in the right places for you. So if you already put them in folders that are already in place, Lightroom will just tidy everything up. It will import everything. Remember to have that suspected duplicates always on to check that you haven't got by mistake you've put them twice in your folders, and it will automatically put them in the right places. So it's a very, very, very powerful feature, and it's a very nice feature. And I would suggest that those of you who already have been using Lightroom to do a synchronize and check that everything that you've got is visible to Lightroom and is in the right place. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, and again, I don't recommend that you do this. Okay. Um, This was taken on the 27th of April. So what would happen if I change the name of this folder? And again, I said before, I don't recommend 27th April 23. 23 April, 27th of April. So the name of that folder has changed, right? But Lightroom doesn't know that it's changed. But when we go into Lightroom now, um, I don't know whether you can see, but there is a question mark. There's a question mark next to the folder. Can you see that there? And all of these pictures now have an exclamation mark on the top right-hand corner. Let's make it bigger so you can see. You see they have an exclamation mark. Okay. So to relink the missing pictures, hold on. Before we do that, let me show you one other function, one other feature. If you are in all photographs and you're wondering whether you have any rogue files or any missing pictures, go to Library, find all missing photos. So if you select that, it's going to bring all of these pictures which are in that folder. And you see now it's created a new entry, missing photographs. So Lightroom will tell you that some pictures are missing. Okay. We'll go back to all photographs. Now, you notice that also this folder is grayed out. This is because it doesn't know where it is. So what we could do is we can click on that exclamation mark and it says image 0209 cannot be found. Could you please locate it? And one of the useful things is that it shows you the path. Now remember, on the first day, we spoke about paths and the database. So the database keeps a path of where this file actually resides, okay? And that's the important thing here. So if I go to locate, and it's now in here, and there it is. Make sure you match the title. Otherwise, all sorts of weird things will happen if you don't match the original file. So 0209 with 0209, and you click select. And you'll see that that folder has now gone completely. And it's created a new folder with the correct name, right? And this folder now has 0 pictures in it. So if you, and I've just removed it. Now, so if you have all of the pictures in the same folder that are missing, then it's easy to relink them, because once you relink one of them, it relinks the whole lot. But imagine if you had missing files all over the place, then you have to manually relink them, okay? Which will take quite a bit of time. So my recommendation is, again, use the synchronize command, because that goes across the board and it helps to find things that are missing and relinks the files correctly. Now, I'm living dangerously today, as you can see. So if I go back and change the folder name again to what it was before, we'll be again in the same situation. Okay. Again, we have the pictures with the missing picture icon, but I just want to show you there is another way of doing this, which is you click on the folder and you say, find missing folder, find missing folder. So when we go to find that missing folder, and I'll say, yes, it's King's Cross, this is the folder, I choose it, right? Then the pictures are relinked and we have a proper folder with no question mark and all of the missing icons have gone. Okay. So, like I said, I don't recommend, and whatever you do, try not to change the names of your folders, the names of your files after you've input them into Lightroom. Always best to do it within Lightroom. But what I'm showing you today, just for illustration purposes, is that if you do change them, if you accidentally change names, you can relink the files and you can relink the folders. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something pretty drastic. And again, don't recommend that you do this, but I am going to take my master library. Hold on, let's hide others. So this is my master library. And I'm going to change the name to something else. Master library number 1. You see, now it's called master library number 1. And like what you see now is that now everything is missing. Okay. Everything is gone gray. All of my folders are, I've got a question mark on them, and all of my pictures have got an exclamation mark. So everything is now missing. Okay. This is a big problem. But the reason this is useful and the reason I'm showing this to you is that your disk may run out of space. So you may have to move your pictures to a new disk, okay? And the new disk, you may decide that it's got a different name or the structure is different. So how do you deal with it? How do you relink? Uh, okay, well, there is another useful feature which is show parent folder. And the parent folder in this case is master library, which used to be called master library. And as you can see the path, it was volumes master library. So what I do is find missing folder. We go to our master library 1 and we choose, and now everything is relinked. And now we have a new master library 1 for the name of the drive. Okay. And everything is as it was before. And then I can say, phew, I haven't lost anything, but that was a bit scary, right? So general rule is avoid changing the names of disks because Lightroom won't find the files and then you won't be able to do anything if you can't find the files. Okay. Now, let's do 2 more things to this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Finder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to eject the drive. So the drive that has all my images is gone. It's not there anymore. Okay. So you'll see again, I'm in exactly the same situation and all my folders are grayed out, right? And if I go to individual pictures, the previews are there because remember, we've saved the previews on import, but we haven't got the master original files. Okay. We haven't got the high res raw files. So if I double click on this file now, it will show me again the picture. That's the actual preview. And it says here embedded preview because that came off the camera as an embedded preview. But when I go to develop, it says the file cannot be found. So you are in big trouble because you cannot do any editing because you haven't got the file. You haven't got the original file. And this tells you when things are grayed out, it basically means that Lightroom cannot find the original disk, cannot find the original files. So what I'm going to do now is, because I ejected my drive, I'm just going to unplug it and I'm going to plug it again. And once the computer recognizes the drive and it mounts, you should see that, as you see here now on the left-hand side, everything is gone proper again, highlighted, and everything is good and as it was before. And again, I can say, phew, I still have my pictures and I know where they are. So we touched upon this the other day, which is the ability to do other types of previews after you've created the previews. So we go to Library, Previews, and in this case, what we're going to do is if we build any of the other type of previews, it's not going to help us if the disk is not there, right? But if we build smart previews, the smart preview is basically a type of compressed image format. It's like a DNG, but it's proprietary to Adobe. And this gets saved in your next to your catalog, right? And this is also what the software sends to this is what the software sends to the Adobe Creative Cloud if you're using multiple devices. Because remember that you can use the syncing feature and it will send the smart previews to your iPad, to your iPhone, and you can edit while you're on the train or you're on your way to work. And when you come back, the data will be resynced with your catalog and you'll get all of the latest edits. Okay, so Pat has just asked me a very good question, which I'm going to cover in a moment. But basically, what that says is that the metadata hasn't been saved for those particular files. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, again, living very, very dangerously, is I am going to unmount this disk. So there's the master library, and I have unmounted it. So here we go. Again, everything has gone gray because everything is missing. But now, if I double click on this picture and I go to develop, I can now develop the picture because I have a smart preview. So this is the benefit of smart previews. I don't recommend that you use this all of the time, but if you're planning to, for some reason, not have your original picture data, or you're planning to work remotely, or you want to edit your pictures on the iPad or on the iPhone or on Android tablet, you can build smart previews. It's a good way to go. And basically what we're going to do now is just as an example, I'm just going to make this just very quickly. I'm just going to convert all of these pictures to black and white so you can see what happens. Because remember that I am supposedly now working remotely or working without my pictures. And if I go back to my library and I go back to my grid view, I have, oh, I forgot one. Convert to black and white. Library. Okay, I have 7 pictures that are black and white. Okay, but remember, my disk has different data on it. It has the original data. So I have unmounted the drive, right? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to remount my drive. So I plugged it in again. And I'm waiting for the disk to mount. And when it mounts, right, what it's going to do, it's going to apply this. Did you also see that the icon changed from a smart preview icon? Now it says NEF. Now it has the original data back online. Okay. So one way to add the metadata is you can just click on this, but a quicker way, this is why I like writing automatically, choosing automatically write changes to XMP. When I choose this option, uh, it's now written all of this metadata to my XMP file. So now it has updated the master disk with what I did to the smart previews. Okay. And if I now click this and go to develop, you'll see that now we're actually using the original master file, the original master image. Okay. So that's what happens when you change things around and remove disks. But that's how you can get by without the original data. You can, but you just got to be aware of what you're doing. So that was your question, Pat. What was that little arrow? It was the metadata saying that there's a mismatch between the smart previews and the original image files. So let me just see. There's another question here from Simon. If you have more than one backup on an external drive, can you configure Lightroom to recognize the master library on those external? Yes. So basically, if they're backups and they are proper backups which copy the file structure exactly as you have it on the master drive, yes, then you can relink your library to the external drives. The easy way to do it would be to keep the name the same. If you rename your backup drive the same as your original master drive, then you won't need to do any relinking. And if the file structure, file path remains the same. But if your backup has a different name, then you have to use the trick that I've shown you to relink the files with the new location. We've had a look at importing. We've had a look at how you import and you put things into a new folder. But there is another method which I think is a nice one, especially because I think it just makes the task slightly easier, let's say. So we know that which was this was the folder that I imported before, right? But I'm going to import some more pictures into this folder, okay? But even if you're starting from a new, let's say a new event, okay? If you're starting from a new event, then what you do is you just right click on the master folder and say create folder inside images, and then you can call it whatever the new event is, right? I'm just going to call it new events just for the sake of argument here. And this new event you see here has got 0 pictures in it, okay, because there's nothing in it. So what we could do, and I'm just going to insert my card back in. Now, when I right click on this new folder, I have this other available option, which is import to this folder. Okay. I like this option because it makes it obvious to the user where the files will go, where the pictures will go. And I think that it's a good strategy to import into a folder in that way. Now, I don't know why is this card not showing now. Let me just cancel that. Okay, it's because I have okay, let me just check that that memory card is correctly appearing. No, and it's not correctly appearing. So let me just take that card out, put it back in. It is an older, slower SD card, this. Okay, if it for some reason it doesn't work, or it may be because we have it's possible because we have this command selected that it's not showing. Okay, not to worry. What we're going to do, hold on, let me just try it one more time. Okay, I don't know what's happening. For some reason, the memory card is not coming up. Okay, doesn't matter. Um, what this is useful for, like I said, is when you import to this specific folder, I'm going to do new images, right? The usefulness of this is that it's automatically making all the correct settings for you. So on the right-hand side, we have into subfolder. Sorry, forget that. It's already selected master library, new event. Okay, so you don't need to worry about any of this stuff here into subfolder. You don't need to change anything. The minute you've got those pictures selected and they're the right ones, you just do import and it will take them in and it will put them into the correct location, which is new event. Okay. So I know I have recommended this strategy to some of you. I think it's a very, very nice way of working because because you've effectively selected the folder that the pictures go in already, right? Import to this folder. All you need to do is select the pictures that you want to put into that folder, and it does it for you. So if it's a memory card that you've got on the screen, you basically import those pictures into that folder. So and you know that they go in the right place, and you know that the naming is correct because you've done it from before. So I think that's a good, very, very good option, especially for the beginners. Okay, import to this folder is a good way to go. Okay, now one final way of importing, and this is really more for power users, I would say, but um, this is another way of importing, but this is totally automated. And the only thing that this won't do is if you're bringing in pictures from different events, it's not going to separate them into separate events for you. It will just put them in a folder, and then you have to manually decide where those pictures go. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call it, I don't know, we're going to call it imported photos. So you see here now we have a folder called imported photos, which has nothing in it. Okay. So what we're going to do is under File, there is something called Auto Import. And we're going to have a look at Auto Import Settings. Okay. Now, if I select the first one, I have a folder already on my disk here. This could be anywhere, doesn't matter. But I have a folder called Auto Import. Okay. It has nothing in it. So I choose that folder. Then you need to remember what in your where do you want the pictures to go? Okay. Now, because we are using our master library, and this is our disk, and remember we created a folder in here, which was imported photos. Then I choose imported photos. So make sure this one is in your master library disk, okay? Your master disk, not in another location. Otherwise, they won't be in the right place. Do you want to rename? So, Pat, this may apply to you if you wanted to rename, but like I said, generally speaking, you want to keep to the same file name. Do you want to do anything to these pictures preset wise? Probably not. Metadata, we spoke about presets the other day. I could add my copyright preset if I wanted to at this stage, or I could write specific keywords on import. And then what kind of preview do I want? And I like the embedded and sidecar, so I'm going to choose the embedded and sidecar, and I click OK. So as you can see, nothing is happening because what we need to do is we need to put in some new images into this particular folder. Okay. So imagine that my card was working, which for some reason it isn't. So I'm just going to take some, what have I got? Some snow pictures here. I'm just going to pick a selection here, and I'm just going to drag them into auto import. So you would basically drag your pictures from your memory card into the auto import folder. Now, again, in Lightroom, nothing's happening at all, because what you need to do is you need to go to auto import and enable auto import. Okay. Once you enable auto import, and I'm making my prayers here to the demo gods that this is going to work, and it is working because the pictures have come through. So here are my snow photos. They've been automatically imported, and they've arrived, and they are already in a folder called auto imported photos. So if you like automation, and if you think that this will work for you, basically you can create an auto import strategy. You can put the pictures, the new pictures, into a specific folder. This folder is always watched by Lightroom, and it will automatically import them. Like I said, it's not going to file them for you. It's going to put them in a folder. So what you do is you create your new folders with dates, whatever, and you drag them in and you create your new file structure. But basically, it's taken care of the import process for you. Okay. You'll also notice that the auto import folder has nothing in it now, because it's also automatically moved them to the right place. Okay. So they are in imported photos. Here are the automatically imported photos. Here they are. So I think, this is another nice feature, which if you are organized, if you like. If you're organized, this is a good way to automate the task and do it for you automatically. And also, you don't have to worry about where deleting files that you've already, pictures that you've already copied, because it's moving them automatically in the right place for you. Okay. That's auto import. If for any reason you want to disable it, again, you just go to enable auto import and just disable it, and it's disabled completely. Okay. So as you've seen, there are three methods, three different methods of importing. And I think now that you know what's possible, it's all down to you to decide which way you want to go. But just try it. I would say the import into folder is probably the simplest. But yeah, this is an important part of the program. Okay, now what I'd like to do next is on a different subject now. We're going to look at some things within Lightroom that we didn't cover the other day within the library again. And the first one is face recognition, which we didn't cover on Tuesday. So I'm going to go to all photos. And on the bottom here, there is this face icon. So I'm going to click on it. And this is now saying, welcome to People View. What would you like to do? And do you want to only find faces as you need, or you want to start finding faces in the entire catalog? So that's what I'm going to choose. And remember that, oh, there's a lot of members there, a lot of members' photos. This is because they were on the walk. Anyway, so what Lightroom is doing, and while it's detecting, you can use Lightroom conventionally, you can go and do other things. But basically what it's doing is it's showing me the faces of everybody in my library. And remember, this is not my whole library. This is just a demo set. But it's picking up every face, even the ladies that were in the swimming pool in the aquatic center during the Olympics are actually recognized as individual people. And every face underneath has a question mark, and it's basically asking me, who are these people? Who are they? And there is, out of this whole set of 150 pictures, there is one picture which I don't think has a face in it. This picture. Oop, that's not right. Well, go back. So you may get pictures of something which is not a face, because there are certain algorithms. This was not particularly great when it was first incorporated into the software, but now I think it's pretty good in terms of the quality. It used to recognize faces in food and cheese and all sorts of locations. But anyway, all you need to do is just, and I'm just going to use my wife, my long-suffering wife, as an example here, and her name is Christina. So I'm just going to name that as Christina. And as people get named, they're appearing here, and there is a keyword. As you can see, there is a keyword here called Christina, and basically it will ask you, are these people, if it's not sure, it will say, is this Christina? You just add it to the Christina group, and then all I need to do is when I go back to the all pictures view and I just click on Christina, and on the right hand, then it's basically showing me all the pictures of my wife. So if you have family photos that you want to um, that you want to catalog effectively, you can just use the face view, and it will recognize them. And as you've seen, the recognition is pretty good. It's very, very good, and also quite quick. Okay, so that's face recognition. Now, the other thing which we didn't cover, okay, we go to none, none, we go to all photos. The other thing that we didn't cover is the super resolution. Doesn't matter which picture we choose. I don't know. Let's choose this one. Now, under Photo Enhance, we have this dialog, and uh, denoise I'm going to cover in detail when we do the new features, because this is a very important new feature, and denoise is basically an algorithm that will remove noise in the picture. Every picture has noise in it, and this is a superb way of removing the noise. Now, this picture um, is probably not a great example. Why? Because this was taken in a bright situation with with a quality camera and a quality lens. So this is not going to have a big problem with noise. So what we will do for this picture is we will do super resolution. And the raw details is another enhancement which is automatically selected. So if you're going to do super resolution or denoise, you always have raw details by default. So what I'm not going to create a stack. So what super resolution does is it basically scales the picture to double the size. So if you're going to print a picture to a larger size, or if you want to look at a particular detail, right? I just have to wait for it to process this. And this is obviously very highly dependent on the processing power of your computer. So basically now you can see that this picture was 7,360 pixels by 4912. Now it's 14,720 pixels. So it's doubled the size, and it's created a new DNG for you. So if we just look at these two pictures, and what we will do is we will compare them. I unlock the zoom. So basically, we have the creation of a very, very high res file out of, let's do the same one here. Now, this is not a direct comparison because this is, of course, showing the JPEG preview. So, but basically, we have a high resolution file which has been built up out of really non-existent data. So it's basically evaluated the picture, it's doubled the resolution, and the quality is just absolutely phenomenal. Maybe what we should do instead of this is probably not the best way to do it. Let's just open them both in develop so that you can see. So let's open this in develop. So if I go to 100% in develop, it's showing like this. This is the original picture, right? And if I go to the high res picture at 100%, it's here. And as you can see, it's pretty impressive. Now, what I should be able to do here, reference view, this is the compare view. Yeah. Okay. So, hmm, so that's the original. Okay, so let's zoom in. So there is other software that does this very, very well using AI or all sorts of things, but this is still, I think, a superb feature if you want, for whatever reason, to enlarge the resolution, enlarge the size of your picture and enlarge it. And I can tell you one specific application for this. If you're doing a digital book in the book module and you took a picture and it was a very low res picture out of an older camera, let's say. Um, Using super resolution will give you adequate resolution for when you're printing that picture, particularly if you crop it. If you're printing a high res book and you crop the picture, you lose resolution because you've got a subset of the image. So if you do super resolution, then you enlarge it. So for me, this is a useful, very, very useful application of the technology. Now, let's just have a look at noise now. I'm going to show this again on the fourth day because we're going to look at denoising much more. But on a picture like this, I shot this many years ago at, okay, this is very dark, so we won't be able to see it very well. Hold on a second. Let's zoom out and hold on. And we want denoise. Yeah, not a good example because it's very dark. I'll choose this one. Photo enhance. Go here. Okay, so we don't want super resolution, we want denoise. So in terms of denoising, this basically I think it's one of the most useful things that has been added in the software recently. It just basically digitally removing the noise. And all pictures really have noise into them. Now, the question is, when is denoise too much? And this is probably not a good example because Grayson Perry is quite small in this picture and it's quite low res. But a good starting point would be something like 50% in terms of denoise. So let's do this, and we'll see how it looks. Now, the other thing is that in the past, when this feature was created, and particularly in Camera Raw in Photoshop, um, it created a separate DNG file, and this is what Lightroom still does. But in Adobe Camera Raw and Photoshop, it still shows you the original file, and you can steplessly, even after you've created the DNG, you can change the level of denoise. But basically, for a lot of work that I do, uh, it has basically meant that it has kind of resurrected images taken with older cameras like the D300, D200, D2X, which had a much higher noise level. So this is the new. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to use the automatic settings just to show you the difference. So we're at 100% here. Let's just go to 200%. go to 200% so you can see how it looks. Okay, and we're going to have a look at the original picture. Now, again, because of the darkness, you don't really notice the difference in noise, but we really notice it if you build up the, if you open up the shadows, and particularly if you look at the people. If we compare with this picture, which was the original, right? And again, I just increased the exposure, and you see the difference now between the noise level of the original picture, right, with the denoised picture. Oh, I don't want to do that. I always get this wrong. Okay, so we put this in there. No, put this in there. We put this in here. And now we can compare. Okay, so you see the difference between the noise levels between the original and this. So it's a denoise is a remarkable feature, and I even use it a lot when I'm doing panoramic photography because I'm using a small sensor camera, and uh, it obviously it because of the small sensor, there's a lot of noise in the picture. So for me, denoise is remarkable because it 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 removes all of that noise. But the important thing is that you don't want to get rid of all of the noise because you want to leave a little bit of texture in the picture. It's still useful to have. It's almost like film. You do not want to go denoise to 100% because then the picture is devoid of any detail. But we will look at this in more detail when we have our fourth session. Okay, but that's basically denoise for you, and it creates a new DNG which sits across. Now, there's a question from David: is there an ISO level? Because you should not. I try to. Okay. Yes. Well, I'm finding, I have to say, with the Z6 series, the Z6 III, the Z8, I'm finding that particularly when you're exporting for the web, um, I very, very seldom have to use denoise. I mean, the pictures coming out of these cameras are so remarkable. And remember that you don't want to use denoise on all of the pictures because it takes a lot of time for the computer to process the data. So it will slow you down. But I would say in a typical set, particularly as David knows, St. Jude's, where we do a lot of work here locally, I would say two or three of my pictures out of a set of 200, I would denoise. And I will try and show you some examples in our demos in the next few days of examples where I've had to use denoise because the noise level was such. But typically, the pictures that would use denoise, uh, well, I think I've got examples here, but I don't remember where they are. Denoise, here we go. So on a picture like this, um, this is a Z9 picture, which was taken at some ridiculous ISO. I think is something like uh, 50,000 ISO or 20,000 ISO or something like that. And certainly on pictures like this, where again, this is 6,400 ISO. Yes, these definitely benefit from a little bit of denoise for sure. Okay. So I would say, 10,000 ISO upwards, which occasionally we have to shoot under those conditions. Um, and this is another example, actually, which this was shot with a D300, with a 70-300 lens, not a particularly great lens. And as you can see, there is noise. I mean, it's just the nature of those cameras at the time. But today's cameras are almost noiseless, I would say, compared to what we used to have. Okay, so I'm not going to do any more on denoise now. Um, we will um, we will revisit this and we'll look at it in more detail because it's more of a develop kind of setting. Okay. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show you, but let's do H. No, I don't want to do HDR. Noise. Trying to remember where they are. Yeah. Now, one of the important functions of the library here is being able to apply the settings on multiple images. So imagine that you've shot in a situation which doesn't change very much, and you had 200 images, let's say. It would be laborious to um, develop one picture individually and then go and develop each one independently. It would take a really, really long time. So there are a lot of features that allow you to copy the settings that you've created on one picture. So whatever edits you've made onto one picture, you can apply it to all of the others. So there's a couple of different ways of doing this. Now, I'm not going to go into develop because we will do develop um, the next session on Tuesday. So just for the sake of doing an example here, I've just converted that to black and white. Okay. So what we could do is when we right click on an image, we have develop settings. Okay. And this is useful because we can apply automatic settings to it, for example, like auto white balance or automatic tonal adjustments. Or what we can do is we can copy settings. And these are all of the settings that we can copy, right? So you don't have to copy everything. You choose and don't worry about what all these mean at this moment because we will go through this in detail in the next session. But what we do is we do copy, right? And then we select another image and then we go to develop settings. And then we go to paste settings or paste settings from previous. And as you can see, it's copied the settings and pasted them onto a new picture. Okay. Now let's show you, let's undo and we'll show you another way of doing this. What you can do is if you select a number of pictures, you can say sync settings. So on the bottom right, you have sync settings. So again, you see a dialog which has all of the potential settings that you made, and then you say synchronize. And what it does is it looks at those settings and it applies those settings across the board. Okay, so that's sync settings. Now I'm going to undo and I'm going to undo and undo. And I'm going to, again, for the sake of argument here, I'm going to reset this to what it was before. And I'm going to show you another way of doing it. You select the pictures and you have a sync button here. Now, I'm just going to show this as a demo, but generally speaking, I recommend that you keep the sync off because if you keep it on, it will sync things as you're working, and then you're wondering what's going on. Why are things happening, out of my control? So generally speaking, my recommendation is to keep the auto sync off. This is on the bottom right-hand corner here. So if I now choose a black and white treatment, because I've got the auto sync, it's basically synced all of these pictures in one go so that they have the same settings. Okay. So that's again something that we didn't cover. Okay, synchronize and sync. Okay, so you should all be experts in library now because we've covered a lot of things. So that's I think, a pretty comprehensive look at what you can do in the library module. Now, this is an extra package, and it costs, I think it costs about £140 to buy, something like that. Now, I started using this program about 3 years ago. I think it came out, something like that, and it was quite experimental. You know, I like to experiment, I like to try things, and anything that is helpful in generating keywords would potentially be a huge time saver, because I don't have to do this in Lightroom. I don't have to do it in Lightroom itself. Now, I showed you on Tuesday that whatever you put on the Adobe Creative Cloud, because it goes on the web, then Lightroom, not Classic, Lightroom can generate the keywords when you search, and you can search for specific things. But again, it's not adding those keywords to those specific images, right? So I'm going to show you this package, which is from a German company called Exire Photo. What I think might be potentially interesting for you is the fact that it generates the keywords automatically. So it uses AI, and the difference with other packages is that the AI is local. So it's not querying a server on the internet at all. It's not sending any personal data or any local data to a server somewhere in China. It's just using whatever built-in database it's got. It's been trained on thousands of images, and basically it creates a list of keywords with which you can search your images. Okay. Now, this is not going to be for all of you. Some of you won't need this at all. Uh, but if you have a huge library or an older library which you've never keyworded, and if you find, I'm going to give you a demo, and then you can tell me whether this is something that's useful potentially for you or not. Another interesting thing is, if you're going to the photography show in London, which is the week after next, this company will be there. And they also sent me an email that they're going to offer a 20% discount for anybody that uses the special code, which I can send to you if you're interested. So this is potentially a good time to purchase this. Now, the other thing to note is that there are two programs here. There is XR Photo and there is XR Search, and they do pretty much the same thing, but XR Photo is an independent program, runs by itself. XR Search is a plugin that gives you the same functionality within Lightroom Classic. Okay, so we're going to have a look at those programs and we will compare, and I'll explain to you typical workflows. So what I'm going to do first thing is go to metadata and make sure that always use sidecar files is on. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add our images. So I have my images. I'm going to use the same demo set. Again, I don't want to do this across my whole library because it would take quite a while. So I'm just going to do the demos. Sorry, let's go back a step. Go to demos and open and make sure that include subfolders. And I want to analyze and start. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to load the whole library. And I created a new database again just for demo purposes. So it's now going through all the photos, creating what it needs to do, previews, and now it's doing the analysis. So this is where it's generating the keywords for the pictures, okay? So what it's done when I select each picture, so we've got 139 pictures, and on the right-hand side here, I've got the information on what was used on the camera. We've got the histogram. We've got EXIF, IPC data here. We've got zoom faces. And here, this is probably the interesting bit on the right-hand side, is it's added keywords. So you can see that it's recognized that this is an animal, it's colorful, and it's a snail. Okay. If I go to the next one, it's an animal, beetle, and an insect. This one, now what you'll see is that sometimes it does make mistakes, right? It's not going to be 100% accurate, but most of the time it does produce very good results. So here we've got a cat, it's a mammal, it's a pet. Here, as you can see, dark fire, fireworks. It's recognized that there's a bit of nature in there, night sky, sepia tones. Here is a friend's wedding, and we've got a bridal couple, female person, whatever, whatever. So the benefit is that it not only generates the keywords for you, but if a keyword is wrong, so for example, this is not a nature photograph, you just basically click on it to delete that keyword. So correcting mistakes is quite quick because you can go through it very, very quickly. Okay. So what I would typically do is to be honest, I'm too lazy to go through and correct the mistakes. I just basically, what I do is I do a select all, and then what I do is I go photo and I say store metadata. Do you want to store metadata? Yes. Okay, so that's how quick it is. Now it stored all the metadata. So if we go to my pictures and I go to this section, animals, now we have these XMP files, right? And I spoke to you about XMP files. So each one has inherited an XMP file which has the same name. So if I look at what the XMP data is, it's this, and this has the keywords in it. So if we look here, right, we have animal, mammal, pet, cat. Okay, so that's what it's doing, right? When you import the pictures into Lightroom, those keywords come in. So you automatically have the keywords. So that's the benefit of using this software. Okay. Now, this actually emulates everything that Lightroom does. So it has a catalog, it's got the database, it's got the keywords, it can create collections, but it can do things like finding duplicates, for example. The other thing that we can do is we've got aesthetic value. If you are a member of the London group, you will see that I judge pictures on aesthetic value, right? This is coming from here. So each picture is being graded. I don't know what the algorithm is, right? But it's basically telling me which are, according to it, which are the best pictures by aesthetic value. So if you are in doubt about your photography, you can check to see what the program likes, what the program says are weaker, what the program says are stronger, right? Now, how can you use this? Well, obviously, you can just use it to generate keywords, but you can also find things. So, for example, I can tell it, I don't know, bridal photos. Let's do bridal. No photos found. Okay, that's good. That's a good start. Hold on. Do a select all. Should be wedding. Right, wedding photos. There we go. Okay. Let's go back to all photos. I don't know. Find me a sitting cat, maybe. I know there's a sitting cat in there. There's a sitting cat. Okay. Go back to the beginning. Um, what shall we say? For sunset, maybe? Sunset. Like I said, this is a subset of photos, so it's not a particularly great example. I mean, the bigger the data set, the more interesting the results are. But basically, with the text search, you can basically ask it like you would a person. So you can say, I would like an atmospheric picture which is sepia toned, with a cat in it and a person smiling. And if that exists, it will show it to you. So that's the for me the incredible and exciting thing, which you cannot do in Lightroom Classic. Um, what else shall we? Let's search for airplane, maybe. There are airplanes in here. So I don't know, plane, pictures with a plane, airplane, all discovered and showing automatically. I don't know what you think, but I'm kind of sold. I'm very excited by being able to do this. It's also showing us previous searches here. Now, there's more. So this is duplicates. I'm not going to bother to show you this because there are no duplicates, but we can also find by GPS and we can also find by keywords. So what this is showing me here is all the keywords that have been embedded in these files, that have been embedded in the XMP. So if we go for person, these are all the categories that it's selected. So if I go for person and I click on plus, it's starting to create a selection here of queries. So I want a person which is kissing, right? And I just say add, yeah, and it's a person that's kissing. And how many search results do we want? And then we start the search, and you know that will hopefully discover all of the. Let's have a look. Person kissing. Okay, let's go back to all photos. Find by keyword. So architecture, a building with something with a door or a window. Click. We don't want kissing in window because that's not going to work, is it? So a picture with a window. These pictures all have windows in them, so it's discovered them. Okay. So what I'm showing is actually quite simple searches, but because you can build on those searches, like I said, you can find a picture of a person in a stadium, whatever, whatever. So we can say I want a person, delete the previous and I want a building with a facade or a house or a skyscraper or whatever, and it will, let's have a look. If it's facade house, let's see what it will find. No, nothing found. Okay, so let's take that facade out and do a search. And so these people, there's a people in front of a house. So it's found it. So anyway, so that's the beauty of the queries. You can drill down, if you like, to more specific searches. So let's find faces now. So this is the interface for finding faces. And again, this is just remarkable, really, because you can say, okay, I want something that's a portrait, and I want it to be a male, and I want it to be, a smile or no smile. You basically choose. So let's have a look. For example, I don't want to drill down too much because we don't have a huge amount of pictures here. But let's say a portrait of an adult. So portraits of adults, and it's found them. Okay. Um, let's try something else. Let's do leave it on several faces and any category in the whole database. Let's see. So pictures with multiple faces in them, again, discovered. So yeah, I mean, basically, this is the usefulness of this for me, that it's basically selecting, making keywords, and it tends to be, like I said, remarkably good. I mean, this is version 4 now, right? And was it the about? So this is version 4, 402. So it's been through 4 revisions, so it's gotten better in time. And if you do not want to use this with Lightroom, you can just use this, use it to build its own database, and you can search for things. And if you know, because you got the file name, right, you can just go into Lightroom, find the same picture, and you find what you're looking for. But the main benefit of this is because we've saved the metadata, the keywords. If you go into file Lightroom, you go into import, it takes the pictures and the XMP files, and those keywords will automatically show as they do here. So you don't have to use this at all. Okay. So this is XR Photo. So what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to show you the sister program of this, which resides in Lightroom itself. So in Lightroom, we have a plugin manager, as it's called, and I have various plugins already installed. So under plugin manager, um, if I go to XR search, here is the master, if you like, switch for this particular plugin, which is called XR search. Like I said before, this is a sister program. It does exactly the same. You do not need to buy both. Okay. You either use one or the other. If you just want to use it with Lightroom, XR Search is the program. If you want to use it with other programs, XR Photo is the package. Okay. So it has things that are useful here. Um, what language do you want to use for the keywords? I can uh, I can restore the data, back up the database. I can reset the database. This is what I did so that basically we start from a clean slate. So the software is installed. We go to library, plugin extras, and we go to initialize photos. Okay. So I want the whole catalog here, everything that's in there. transfer aesthetic values, transfer keywords, and then I click on start. So it says here 139 start. Okay, so you can see on the top left-hand corner, this is now working away. So it's going to do exactly the same what we did before, except this is now happening within Lightroom. Okay, so it says initialization complete. Now, when I did this with my um, whole library, it took about 2 days to do. So here we've got the keywords that it's created. So if I look at the animal category, oh, hold on, I just need to do, oh, I've got XMP. Okay. Now, the reason this may appear, there's a metadata conflict. And the reason there's a metadata conflict is because I added the metadata from XR photo, and this is now reading the same library, and there's two sets of metadata in there. So don't worry about the conflict. This should still work fine. So I click on animal, and I've got the animals. I click on architecture here, and it's got all the architectural photos in my library. A picture that has a drink in it. Yes, my wife is having a drink. Correct. This is an event, so this is a concert, it says. Correct, it is a concert. Very good. Fireworks, yes. Parade, it's some kind of parade. Well, maybe, maybe. A wedding, 3 photos with a wedding. 100% correct. A photo of food. Well, maybe, I don't know. There's a pumpkin there, so I don't know whether that qualifies. Nature, there are 24 pictures with nature. Yeah, maybe this is wrong here, but the rest, I don't know. Is this nature? Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, the rest I think might qualify. This doesn't qualify. Pictures with persons in them. Yeah, I think that's an accurate statement. These pictures all have people in them. That is correct. And let's look at any picture that has a vehicle in it, some sort of vehicle, maybe. And if I look at the hierarchy here, so pictures with aircraft. Yeah, that is correct. They're all aircraft. Airplane, different category. Yes. Bicycle. Pictures with bicycle. I don't know. Is that a bicycle? Does that qualify? I think we could qualify that. I think we could allow that. Pictures with boats in them. This one doesn't actually have a boat in it, so that's wrong. But these three are correct. A picture with a car. Ooh. Ooh, yes. Okay, we'll give you that. And a picture with a motorcycle. I don't know whether there's a motorcycle in there, but if it has seen a motorcycle in there, that's pretty remarkable. Anyway, um, I think you get the idea. But we can do other things that are useful. So, for example, let's go to this picture. I go to library and I say search by example photo, right? So basically, it's going to look at pictures that are similar to this without looking at keywords. Start. So all the pictures that are similar, and this is just telling me that I should put it in custom order here because it likes to be in custom order, which is the last option. So I think that feature alone to select a picture and say, find me similar pictures, um, I think that's remarkable just in itself. I think that's a remarkable time saver to be able to say, this is the picture, I want similar pictures, bang, it finds it for you. I think that's pretty clever. Incidentally, you might look here. We looked at keywords the other day, but if you look at the keywords that it's created for just this picture, so adult, eyes closed, face, female, frontal face, group, person, smile, sport, swimming, teenager, young adult, water sport. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. I mean, it would be physically impossible for a person to put all this amount of keywording for one shot, but this is what this does, and I think it's quite impressive. So let's go back to all photographs, and what I'm going to just show you next is similar things to what we did before. So we can search for aesthetics. So this is the most aesthetic photos. Okay. How many results do we want? I don't know. Let's do 10 pictures. Start. So according to this, these are the best photos in my library. So it obviously likes black and white infrareds. I imagine. I mean, that's probably quite correct in terms of its assessment that these are probably the most artistic photos in the whole library. Library plugin extras. So we can search again for under the text prompt. So I don't know. Let's try black and white. I'm making this up as I go along. I haven't researched this, so sometimes it may not work. Let's do dark. No. Okay. Um, I don't know. Sepia? Were there some sepia photos? But the text prompt works in the same way as before. So you can say to it, I would like a group of females in a swimming pool. You could say that. And well, now that I said it, I've got to try it, haven't I? So um, so search by text prompt, group of female persons in a swimming pool. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So if you know what you're doing and if you read the manual, which I haven't done, it's a useful feature, I think. And I don't have shares in this company, but if you have, like I said, if you have a large library of images and you don't really have the time to keyword, and certainly I would recommend that now that you know how to keyword, you should really just keyword what's coming in, all the new things that you do, but going back to keywording old sets of pictures, I think would be very time consuming and very laborious. So if you have a program like this, uh, the price of admission is nothing compared to the amounts of work that it does for you and the ability for you to find your pictures. So let's now do search by keyword. So this is the same as we did before. So we look at the the keywords, and we just basically tell it, I want architecture, and I want it to be with a person, and I want it to be of athletics. So I want architecture, person, athletics. Now, this is useful. It's actually telling me that I'm not going to get a Neil Poir. I'm going to get two photos that match those criteria, which I think is useful to know that at least you've got a useful search. So when I search, there are people in the stadium here, which is looking at sport. So it's working. It's working for sure. And in the same way, if we search for faces or people, um, again, the interface is similar, what I've shown you before. So I want uh, several faces or two faces of let's do a portrait. Let's do a portrait of a baby because I know that's in there. One photo matches the search criteria. Start. Yes, there's a picture of my daughter in there. And let's do search for faces. Let's do teenager and adult and any pictures that are elderly, maybe. No, 8 photos match this criteria. Portrait. Any elderly? No, no. Portraits. There are 8. We know. Let's do two faces of adults which smile a lot. 3. Start. So yes, three pictures of people that are smiling. That's pretty remarkable, I think. Now, the other thing that's useful, and this is not going to be relevant to this library because there just aren't any duplicates, but you can also search for duplicates, which we spoke about duplicates earlier. Uh, Duplicates are very difficult to deal with in Lightroom because it doesn't physically see the pictures. So recognizing that something is a duplicate is a very, very difficult thing to do. And there are companies making external plugins um, to Lightroom that find duplicates. And some, it's not a 100% accurate operation. It can be good, but it does require some input from yourselves. And this is again potentially useful if you've accidentally imported pictures that are duplicates for whatever reason. You have this ability. So I don't know what this will come up with. Let's just try it. So it thinks that these are duplicates. Yeah, I mean, they are very close. They're not actually duplicates, but they are remarkably similar. Yeah. So one of you asked Simon. Simon asked, "Can you correct mistakes and add keywords?" Yes, of course. Everything. Uh, since we are in Lightroom now, because you've got your keyword box here, you can add keywords, and any mistakes here can be corrected. So yes, you
See
can.
your screen at the moment.
Sorry.
We can't see your screen, or at least
Oh,
I can't.
oh, really? No, I am sharing. So can everybody see my screen? Yeah. So Simon, I am sharing my screen, so you should be able to see it.
I've done something wrong.
Yes. Yeah, we have the recording, so you should be able to see and see this afterwards. What was the point from which you started not seeing my screen? Was it from the break?
I think it was around the time I asked that question.
Ah, okay. That was at 12:40. That was just 3 minutes ago.
But
Yeah.
perhaps a few minutes before that.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I'm not sure. It's something local to you. that you need to check. But yes, so yes, you can. For example, if I don't like the fact that there's a vehicle in there, I just basically delete that keyword and just remove it from here. And I could have done all three at the same time, but I'm just doing it individually so you can see. So yes, you can remove the keywords that are mistakes. And in fact, one of the other things that I like, although I can't really demonstrate that to you, once you start checking whether everything is correct, and also, like I've shown you, you can change the hierarchy, then you'll find that there are some keywords that are no longer in use, right? There are keywords that are in the database, but they don't apply to any images. Then you can use the purge. There is a purge unused keywords command, which just basically gets rid of them, gets rid of any keywords that are rogue, that are not applicable to anything. Um, but yes, and the other thing I didn't mention is that the XR photo is also good for people who are using Photoshop and using Adobe Camera Raw, because some people prefer to use the Camera Raw functionality. Like myself, I've grown up with Camera Raw, so I tend to use Camera Raw. But then when I finish my editing, then what I do is I import everything into Lightroom Classic anyway. So I use Lightroom Classic for its database features, but I use Camera Raw in Photoshop. So for me, the ability to create metadata keywords outside of Lightroom is useful. That's why I use both programs. If you're, like I said, if you're just a Lightroom Classic user, then and if you do like this software, then XR Search is the package to go for. Um, yeah. So like we've seen before, we've got the nine most common keyword suggestions are in there. You can drag them to individual pictures, but it's created this very good keyword list, which you can save if you want. You can save it as a preset if you like. But basically, we've got the hierarchy here as well. So events broken down into these, nature broken down into, you see, nature is broken down into autumn, beach, clouds, desert. I was going to say desert there, desert, field, highland, night sky, plant, river, sky, right? So, we have a hierarchy, and potentially this could drill down to, two or three levels down, if it finds enough pictures. So these are pictures that have water in them, picture of a sunset, pictures which have sky in them, pictures with a river, correct? A plant. This one, no, but this one is a yes. So this one I would go and I would fix. A night sky, highland. Yes, actually, that is highland. A field, a desert. These are not deserts, but it's an island in Greece which is devoid of vegetation. So you could say it's a desert, correct? Pictures of clouds, pictures of a beach, and pictures with autumn. Well, this is Halloween, so I don't know how it recognized that it's autumn, but yes, correct. Yeah. Anyway, I think you get the general idea, and I hope that even though this part was not part of our formal program, I think you've got a glimpse of how I work, and certainly, I think programs like this are very, very useful because they fill in a gap. Um, at some stage, Adobe may produce this kind of functionality built in. I hope so. And, hopefully with AI and all of these new technologies, hopefully they will build this in. But until they do, um, we may have to rely on third-party packages to, provide those features. Anyway, I think that concludes our session, but we've got 10 minutes to one, so I think this is a good opportunity. If you have any questions, if anything is not clear, if you have any comments, if there's something else that you would like me to show you, very happy to.